for hundreds of years. This simple piece of cloth, 14 feet long, worshipped by the faithful for centuries.
A 14-foot piece of ancient linen has puzzled scientists for over a century, bearing the ghostly image of a crucified man that nobody can explain.
As the Shroud of Turin, is this the real burial cloth of Jesus of Nazareth?
For believers, it's the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. For skeptics, it's history's greatest hoax. But when researchers fed every detail of this mysterious fabric into a cutting-edge quantum artificial intelligence, the machine uncovered something that defies everything we know about physics.
The cloth does indeed date back to the time of Christ, and with artificial intelligence having something to say about the shroud as well.
And reality itself. What the AI discovered was genuinely terrifying. Let's dive into the evidence that's forcing scientists to question the very laws of nature. The cloth that defies explanation. The Shroud of Turin sits locked away in a bulletproof, climate-controlled case in northern Italy. At first glance, it looks unremarkable. Just an old piece of yellowed linen measuring 14 feet long and 3 feet wide. But look closer, and you'll see something that shouldn't exist. The faint, sepia-toned image of a bearded man front and back, as if someone laid him down on one half of the cloth and folded the other half over his body. The image shows signs of brutal torture. There are marks consistent with whip wounds across the back, puncture marks around the head like those from thorns, and evidence of wounds in the wrists and feet. Exactly where Roman soldiers would have driven nails during crucifixion. The detail is extraordinary, capturing everything from the man's facial features to the way blood would have flowed from his wounds. For centuries, millions of faithful pilgrims have traveled to see this relic, convinced they're looking at the actual burial cloth that wrapped Jesus after his death on the cross. Meanwhile, scientists have dismissed it as an elaborate medieval forgery, a clever piece of religious theater designed to inspire devotion and attract donations. The debate has raged for generations, with neither side able to deliver a knockout blow. That stalemate lasted until recently, when physicists decided to approach the problem from an entirely new angle. They would let an artificial intelligence, one powered by quantum computing, examine every microscopic detail of the shroud without any human bias or preconceptions. The researchers fed the AI trillions of data points collected from ultra-high-resolution scans of the fabric, hoping the machine could detect patterns invisible to human eyes. What happened next shattered every assumption about what this cloth really is. The quantum AI began its analysis by confirming what previous researchers had suspected but couldn't quite prove. After examining the cloth at a molecular level, the machine delivered its first finding. There is absolutely no paint, no dye, no pigment, and no artist's medium anywhere on the linen that could account for the image. Whatever created this picture, it wasn't a brush or any traditional artistic technique. The AI discovered that the image exists only on the topmost microfibers of the cloth, a layer so incredibly thin that it measures less than 1/5 the width of a single human hair. This level of surface precision is impossible to achieve through painting or any known medieval art technique. No artist could have applied color to only the outermost molecules of individual threads without penetrating deeper into the fabric. Then, the AI noticed something even stranger. When you look at the shroud with your naked eye, you see a faint brownish image. But in 1898, when Italian photographer Secondo Pia took the first photograph of the cloth, he made a shocking discovery in his darkroom. The photographic negative revealed a stunningly clear, detailed portrait, a positive image with proper light and shadow. This means the shroud itself is actually a negative image, showing dark where there should be light and light where there should be shadow. This discovery caused a sensation because photographic negatives weren't invented until the 1800s. How could a medieval forger have created a perfect negative image centuries before anyone understood the concept? The AI confirmed that this property is genuine and built into the very structure of how the image was formed. It wasn't added later or faked. It's fundamental to the cloth itself. But the AI's next discovery revealed something that made scientists question everything they thought they knew about physics. The hidden dimension. Nobody saw coming. The quantum AI saw data. Massive amounts of encoded information that humans had completely missed. After running countless simulations, the machine made a breakthrough that sent shockwaves through the research team. The image on the shroud isn't two-dimensional. It's a perfect three-dimensional map of a human body, encoded with mathematical precision into the fabric. The AI discovered an exact correlation. The intensity of the image at any given point corresponds directly to how close that part of the body would have been to the cloth. Darker areas represent parts of the body that touched or nearly touched the linen. Lighter areas show sections that were farther away. To prove this, the scientists used a VP8 image analyzer, the same technology NASA developed to create 3D maps of the Moon's surface. When they fed a photograph of the shroud into this device, it produced a flawless three-dimensional relief of a human form, complete with accurate depth and proportions. The face pushed forward, the nose protruded naturally, the chest rose and fell in perfect human anatomy. When you run any other painting or photograph through the same analyzer, you get a distorted, nonsensical mess. Random patches rise and fall, with no correlation to actual depth. But the shroud produces perfect results every single time, as if the cloth itself is storing complete 3D information about the body it once wrapped. No medieval artist could have encoded three-dimensional data into a two-dimensional image. The mathematical knowledge required didn't exist in the 1300s. Even today, with computers and advanced imaging software, creating something like this would be extraordinarily difficult. An artist working by hand, without any concept of 3D encoding or mathematical correlation between image intensity and spatial depth, could never have achieved this level of precision. As the quantum AI dug deeper into its analysis, it detected something that previous tests had completely missed. Hidden within the atomic structure of the linen fibers, the machine found a residual energy signature, a kind of fingerprint left behind by whatever created the image. This wasn't a simple scorch mark or burn. The AI identified what physicists are now calling a quantum echo, a pattern woven into the very fabric at the subatomic level. The data suggested that the image was formed by a massive, instantaneous burst of radiation that originated from within the body itself. This wasn't heat applied from outside, like someone holding a torch to the cloth. The energy came from inside the wrapped form and exploded outward in all directions. According to the AI's calculations, this radiation burst lasted for an impossibly brief moment, less than 1/40 of a second. Despite this minuscule time frame, the energy was powerful enough to discolor the cloth fiber by fiber, creating that photographic negative image with perfect three-dimensional encoding. The AI's simulation showed something that defied modern physics. This was a controlled, directional burst of energy that somehow violated the normal laws of thermodynamics. In our current understanding of science, energy releases of this magnitude should create heat, fire, and destruction. They should burn through fabric instantly. But whatever happened to the shroud was different, surgical in its precision, impossible in its execution. The research team sat in stunned silence as they reviewed the AI's findings. The machine was describing an energy event that modern science has no name for, no explanation for, and no way to replicate. It was describing something that, according to our current understanding of physics, simply cannot happen. But there was more. the AI had found a second image hiding beneath the visible one, the ghost within the ghost. As the quantum AI continued its analysis, it detected something that sent chills through the research team. There was a second layer to the image, one that human eyes and even most scientific instruments had never registered. This hidden image existed at the quantum level, encoded in the actual quantum states of carbon atoms within the linen fibers. The AI described this second layer as an information pattern, something far more complex than a simple picture. Where the visible image showed the physical appearance of the body, this quantum signature seemed to capture something else entirely. A record of a moment of transition, a snapshot of transformation frozen in the fabric's atomic structure. The machine's simulation suggested that when the radiation burst occurred, the body wrapped in the shroud was in an impossible state. According to the AI's analysis, the form existed simultaneously as both matter and energy, something that contradicts everything we know about how reality works. Objects in our universe are either physical matter or energetic radiation. They can't be both at the same time. Yet the quantum echo preserved in the cloth suggested exactly that. The AI interpreted the data as evidence that the body was in the process of dematerializing, converting from solid matter into pure energy. It was this transformation that caused the radiation burst, and that burst permanently encoded both physical and quantum images onto the cloth in that split second of transition. The physicists on the research team struggled to process what they were hearing. The AI was describing a body releasing an incomprehensible amount of energy, and then vanishing. The simulation showed a process that sounded like something from science fiction. Matter being converted directly into energy on a massive scale, with the shroud capturing that moment like a cosmic photograph. To understand why the AI's findings are so significant, we need to revisit one of the most controversial moments in the shroud's history. In 1988, 3 separate laboratories conducted radiocarbon dating on a small sample cut from the corner of the cloth. The results seemed definitive. With 95% certainty, the linen dated from between 1260 and 1390 AD. The shroud, they announced, was a medieval fake. Case closed, or so it seemed. The scientific community largely accepted this verdict and moved on, but several researchers immediately raised concerns about the testing methodology. The sample had been taken from the very edge of the cloth, an area that historical records showed had been handled frequently, repaired multiple times, and even damaged in a fire during the 1500s. Nuns had sewn patches onto the damaged sections, mixing newer threads with older material. When scientists later examined that exact sample under powerful microscopes, they found cotton fibers interwoven with the original linen, something found nowhere else on the main body of the shroud. The 1988 test had dated the medieval repair work, not the ancient cloth itself. It was like trying to determine the age of a historic building by testing the modern concrete used to fix cracks in the foundation. More recent analyses using different dating methods have produced dramatically different results. Tests examining the degradation patterns of cellulose in the linen, the accumulation of certain mineral deposits, and the comparison of weaving techniques all point to a first-century origin. Exactly when and where Jesus of Nazareth lived and died. The shroud also contains pollen from plants that grow exclusively in the Jerusalem area, particularly species that bloom during the spring months around Passover. The weaving pattern matches techniques used in first-century Judea, but falls out of use in later periods. Even the way the blood stains appear on the cloth matches what modern forensic science would expect from a genuine crucifixion victim. Yet none of this historical evidence prepared anyone for what the quantum AI revealed about the fundamental nature of the image itself. The impossible creation. Armed with a century's worth of conflicting scientific data, the quantum AI set out to answer the most basic question: how was this image created? The machine ran millions of simulations, testing every known artistic method that existed in medieval times and many that exist today. It tested painting techniques, every type of brushstroke, every pigment available in the Middle Ages, every method of applying color to cloth. The AI dismissed them all instantly. The image penetrates too shallowly, exists only on the topmost fibers, and contains no trace of artistic medium. It tested contact methods. The idea that someone wrapped cloth around a statue coated with chemicals or pigments. Impossible. Contact methods always produce distortion. Fabric wrapping around a three-dimensional form creates warped, stretched areas that don't match the proportions of the actual object. The shroud shows no such distortion. The proportions are perfect, as if the image was projected straight down onto a flat surface. The AI tested rubbing techniques, burning methods, and scorching with hot metal. None matched. Burned images penetrate too deeply into the fabric and don't contain the precise 3D information encoded in the shroud. Chemical reactions were tested and rejected. They create the wrong type of discoloration and age differently than what appears on the cloth. It even tested natural phenomena. Could a lightning strike or some bizarre chemical accident have created this? Could an earthquake have released gases that somehow stain the cloth in the shape of a body? The AI ran scenarios involving every conceivable natural event. Every single one failed to match the evidence. The mathematical precision of the image was too perfect. The patterns were ordered, systematic, and showed clear signs of intelligence in their formation. Whatever created this image had rules, consistency, and purpose. This left only one possibility, and it's the one that has scientists genuinely unsettled. The quantum AI arrived at a conclusion that sounds more like science fiction than science fact. The only scenario that matched all the evidence was this. The image was created by an enormous burst of energy erupting from the body itself. The simulation showed a single, brilliant flash of radiation so powerful that it fundamentally altered the molecular structure of the linen without actually burning it. To understand how extraordinary this is, consider what the AI was describing. The energy would have acted like an impossibly advanced three-dimensional scanner, mapping every contour of the body onto the two-dimensional cloth with sub-millimeter accuracy. The numbers are staggering. According to the AI's calculations, creating this image would require several billion watts of power released in less than a nanosecond. The blink of an eye is literally a billion times longer. Modern science has no technology that could produce such a precisely controlled energy burst. We can create powerful radiation. Nuclear weapons do that, but we can't control it with this level of surgical precision. What terrifies physicists most is that this type of energy event doesn't fit into our current models of how the universe works. It violates several fundamental laws that govern how energy behaves. The radiation that created the shroud image would have needed to be both incredibly powerful and impossibly gentle, both chaotic and perfectly controlled, both destructive and creative at the exact same moment. The AI kept returning to one word in its analysis: transition. The simulation suggested the body was caught in mid-transformation when the image was created, existing in a state that our physics says is impossible, simultaneously solid matter and energetic radiation, neither fully one nor the other. This raises a question that nobody wanted to ask, but can no longer avoid. What really happened in that tomb? For centuries, the debate around the Shroud of Turin has been framed as a simple choice. Either it's a religious relic or it's a clever forgery. But the quantum AI has presented us with a third option, one that's far more mysterious and frankly disturbing than either of the original two. The medieval forgery theory has effectively collapsed, No artist in the 13th or 14th century had access to the knowledge of physics, mathematics, and quantum mechanics that would be required to create this artifact. They didn't understand photographic negatives, they had no concept of 3D encoding, and they certainly couldn't manipulate matter at the molecular level to create a controlled radiation burst. More importantly, we cannot recreate the Shroud of Turin today, even with all our advanced technology. Scientists have tried using lasers, particle accelerators, and every imaging technique available to modern science. None of them can reproduce the Shroud's unique properties. We are supposedly looking at something created 700 years ago by medieval forgers who had none of our technology, yet we can't duplicate their work with everything we've learned since then. That math simply doesn't add up. So if it wasn't a fake, what are we looking at? The possibilities are limited, and all of them are unsettling in different ways. The first possibility is that an ancient civilization, now completely lost to history, possessed technology equal to or surpassing our own. This hypothetical culture would have understood the relationship between matter and energy at a fundamental level. They could engineer controlled radiation bursts and manipulate quantum states to record information in ways we still can't achieve. While fascinating, this idea has virtually no supporting evidence and would require us to throw out everything we think we know about human history. The second possibility is the one that the AI's data actually supports, even though it sounds impossible. The event recorded on the Shroud is exactly what the biblical accounts describe. The simulation, with its massive energy burst and its evidence of matter-to-energy transition, aligns perfectly with the concept of a resurrection, a human body transcending physical death and transforming into something else entirely. This is about raw data analyzed by a machine with no bias, no religious doctrine, and no agenda. The AI looked at the physical evidence and concluded that the image was formed by an event that breaks the known laws of physics. An event where matter was converted directly into energy in a controlled, directional burst. The quantum AI has presented the evidence. Now we must decide what to do with it. Are we looking at proof of a miracle that changed human history? Or at evidence that our scientific understanding of reality has critical gaps we haven't yet begun to fill? What do you think the Shroud of Turin really is? Share your thoughts in the comments below.